that was a protest against the Trump regime in Washington, D.C. The protests were in full force and effect this week. I know corporate news was not covering it. We're covering it here at the MeidasTouch Network. This regime needs to be protested. We need to see those protests grow. I want to share this with you as well, as we know that the death toll in Texas, in Kerr County, as a result of those flash floods, is now at 43 confirmed deaths. There's still about 27 young girls unaccounted for from that Camp Mystic in Kerr County. And the more we learn about what took place in Kerr County, the more disturbing it is. I've been doing a lot of videos on this where I've been showing you what the local officials from Kerr County, and it's a fairly right-wing kind of pro-Trump area, what they're saying. They're claiming that they did not get the proper notice from the National Weather Service. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service, which is under the NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, suffered significant DOGE cuts. And we know that the Trump regime wants to just completely destroy and dismantle their budgets. And we have Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, multiple times talking about getting rid of FEMA and how she and Donald Trump want to eliminate FEMA. And then Noem yesterday gave that disastrous press conference. I'm not going to play it again because I did a whole other video about it that got, like 1 million views yesterday. But Kristi Noem gave this press conference in Texas, and she was like, the technology that gives the notice to the locals isn't really working that well. And she blamed former President Biden. She's like, the past administrations, it's really all of their fault. But by the way, we have Howard Lutnick from June 4th, 2025 saying, the National Weather Service is fully equipped with great observing systems that are fully operational. And it's just pathetic that everything that happens, they blame Biden for. And so you got to protest this Trump regime, the cruelty, the incompetence. Just again, what they're doing with the concentration camp in Florida, in the Everglades, Alligator Alcatraz, as they're putting up signs, for that. It reminds me of Dachau from one of the first concentration camp, in Nazi Germany. As all of this, horrible stuff is going on, here's what Donald Trump is doing. He's sending emails like this out to his supporters. I subscribe to his listserv so you don't have to. This was from yesterday, right? So we know about one of the biggest tragedies in recent history, what took place in Kerr County. But here's what Donald Trump is sending to his supporters. The subject is, we can celebrate your promotion tomorrow. And it says, Ben, I made a big decision at the White House. In consultation with Vice President J.D. Vance, I made the call to open up a few more highly selective spots for cabinet-level advisors. And the first one is going to you, and then you have to pay money. But, his supporters really believe that they're going to become cabinet-level advisors by giving Donald Trump money. There was another email that I don't even need to show here where he said, congratulations, you all have no tax on Social Security anymore. We did it, when that's not in the disastrous budget bill. Meanwhile, here's what the MAGA Republican Congress members are doing. Again, they're just like celebrating and partying, taking away Medicaid from 17 million Americans. This is a real video that MAGA Republican Congress member Mike Collins posted. And I'm not sure if he's in this video or if it's other MAGA Republican Congress members or just a bunch of dudes that he knows or is friends with, or he's just posting a bunch of dudes. And it says, the European mind could never comprehend. And it's a bunch of men who are seemingly out of shape wearing Donald Trump floaties, and they're about to jump in a pool with Donald Trump floaties, and it goes, the European mind can never comprehend. And for good reason, because this is some of the most bizarre cultish behavior imaginable. I'll tell you whose mind can comprehend: Vladimir Putin and Russia. Russian propaganda media, they've been just celebrating all day Donald Trump's call with Putin from about 72 hours ago, where Donald Trump and Putin talked about making movies together and making songs together, while Putin told Donald Trump, yeah, I'm not going to stop the, quote, special operation, end quote, in Ukraine until we utterly destroy it, and there's nothing you're going to do to stop us, Donald. And Donald Trump, weak, pathetic, he claims, I'm going to provide Patriot missiles to Ukraine. No, we've gone through this routine over and over again. Trump and his regime and people like Colby Eldridge in the Pentagon and Pete Hegseth, they've defunded Ukraine. They've stopped sending critical weapons to Ukraine, and they've allowed this brutal attacks to continue on Kyiv and other cities in Ukraine. So here's Russian propaganda TV. They're like, I always believed in Donald. Donald's the greatest. How crazy is that? Okay, I think this is an important point as well, because Trump and his cult supporters, they continue to post, inflation is done, we've beat inflation, we're out, gas is $1.98, everything is cheap now. And we, the people, know that's just a lie. Like, if you bought stuff for July 4th, you know it was more expensive. Core inflation is up 2.7% last month. And inflation overall is higher. Things are significantly more expensive. Take a look at this study. Here's what Axios published. July 4th cookouts costs sizzle with tariff pressures. Tariffs and trade tensions are pushing up the cost of summer cookouts, including Independence Day barbecues, Democratic lawmakers warn. Cookout costs increased at 12.7% annualized rate since Trump announced the Liberation Day tariffs, in an analysis by the Joint Economic Committee's minority arm. Ground beef and ice cream hit their highest prices on record since the 1980s, the analysis found, citing the Consumer Price Index. Miller Lite and Coors Light six-packs are up more than 13% at Walmart since Liberation Day, which I called Liquidation Day, and through June 26, per the report. Imported beer prices also rose, with Peroni increasing 10.5% and Modelo and Especial 9.5%. Cookout essentials like aluminum foil, grill tools, and sunscreen saw hikes between 6% and 18%. So I'm sure that's consistent with my experience at the supermarket. Ground beef is incredibly expensive as well. 68% of people surveyed said barbecues are noticeably more expensive to host this year, and 55% noting tariffs are making holiday celebrations more expensive. It's just the reality of the situation. Also, in Trump's America, the measles outbreak is incredibly widespread. It's been the worst since the disease was eradicated. Right now, a disease once eliminated in the U.S. is now roaring back, and we just hit a chilling milestone: 1,277 measles cases in just 6 months, more than any full year since 2000. Outbreak is fueled by falling childhood vaccination rates, and it's sparked in an under-vaccinated pocket of West Texas. It's a public health crisis, indeed. Another data point, we'll see what happens this week. This is when Donald Trump said he was going to have 90 deals in 90 days by. But so far, we really have 0 deals in 90 days. What he did with Vietnam was not even really a deal. It was a social media post. There's actually no deal. We don't see it. Show me the deal. But Donald Trump said he was going to lower tariffs against Vietnam to 20%. And if goods come from China to Vietnam into the United States, the tariffs would be 40%. And then Donald Trump was able to made a deal for himself. That was a true deal, where he was going to build a Trump golf course or a Trump resort, valued at around $1.5 billion. That was a deal that he was able to secure with the Vietnam government. There's no trade deal. It's just Donald Trump making up a tariff number. Same thing with the United Kingdom. It's a preferential treatment for the UK automakers, Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, and Bentley, who now get preferential tariff treatment over American manufacturers. And then what we did with China is not a deal. It just reduced the tariffs from 145% to basically 55%, 30%, but then he said there was another 25%, so there's nothing really there. Should also be noted that what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just said is that the U.S. will impose 10% tariffs on 100 countries, and that's what we're just going to do. So he wasn't able to make any deals at all, but he's now just going to apply 10% tariffs to 100 countries. And according to a Politico article, the Trump administration is just all these tariffs, everything is just 100% fake, but I think we all know that. This insider told Politico, Trump loves just the game. He loves the attention he's getting from these tariffs. Oh, tell me something we don't know. It's obviously what he's doing. Okay, let's pull up some more data right here. A few days ago, Kristi Noem was bragging about stealing money from FEMA to fund the alligator Alcatraz, the concentration camp in the Everglades in Florida. Here's what she wrote. Alligator Alcatraz will be funded largely by FEMA's Shelter and Services program. You're stealing money from FEMA to give to Alligator Alcatraz based on the lie that FEMA's supporting illegal immigrants, which is just not true either. Here's Kristi Noem from March 24th, 2025, stating that FEMA will be eliminated. Let's play it.
And we're going to eliminate FEMA. So we've got a lot to do, but it's all good, and we're working hard, and we're going to make sure that we're continuing to do exactly what you promised.
Here she is during her testimony that she gave in front of Congress a month or so back, saying FEMA will be eliminated.
Well, thank you for your question and the discussion on this topic today. President Trump has been very clear since the beginning that he believes that FEMA and its response in many, many circumstances has failed the American people, and that FEMA as it exists today should be eliminated and empowering states to respond to disasters with federal government support.
Here she is at the White House saying FEMA will be eliminated. Let's play it.
We all know from the past that FEMA has failed thousands, if not millions of people. And President Trump does not want to see that continue into the future. So this agency fundamentally needs to go away as it exists.
And now they wonder, where's FEMA? What happened with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration? What happened with all of them? You guys cut them. I mean, the budget cuts the NOAA by 25% already. What is it? 600 to 800 people lost their jobs. We know there's been report after report that weather forecasts are degraded right now. We're not sending the weather balloons up that need to go. There's clearly not the right type of coordination between federal and state authorities. And by the way, this was in March. MAGA Republican Congress member Chuck Edwards. I could show you a bunch of clips of MAGA Republicans saying this. I'll just show you one for the sake of brevity. Defending Donald Trump's cuts to the NOAA. Here, play it.
Let's take another question.
Let's go to our next question from Diane, zip code 28787. Why are you supporting the destruction of all of our North Carolina agencies? NOAA, Social Security, FEMA, VA, etc.
Yeah. I think we have to look for efficiency in every single government agency that's out there. There are about 2 million federal employees that you are paying for every single year. Government has bloated exponentially since the pandemic. I believe that we owe it to the taxpayers to go and look for efficiencies that are out there.
But really all Donald Trump wants to do is post photos of airplanes going over the White House and photos of himself saluting B-2 bombers. That's really what he wants to focus on, all the performative stuff. And then he has state regime media, Fox, post headlines like this. Trump rides major wave of momentum going into July 4th after Iran and big BBB, big beautiful bill, which is big disastrous bill. Let me put this in context. Trump's approval is like the lowest in presidential history right now. Americans believe by overwhelming amounts that what we did in Iran has made us less safe. I think the support for the disastrous budget bill is in the 20s. People hate Donald Trump's immigration policy right now. And the inability of the federal government to coordinate with local and state officials in Kerr County has caused a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And we now know that 43 dead with 27 young girls missing. So this number seems like it's probably going to be, in the 70s, maybe even higher, with mostly young girls dying. And people were saying this was going to happen. People were saying when you degrade the ability of FEMA and you degrade the ability of the National Weather Service and the NOAA, it's a recipe for disaster. And now we're going to start to get into hurricane season. What's going to happen when a hurricane hits? And also, if you're putting Alligator Alcatraz, which is already flooded in the Everglades, what do you think is going to happen? And by the way, you don't have to believe me. Here are some of the local officials in Kerr County. And this is, again, a very, very MAGA area. Here are Texas officials blasting the National Weather Service for faulty forecasts and the deadly flood disaster. They're saying it themselves here. Play this clip.
The original forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the Hill Country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw.
And of course, while all of this is going on, in the background, we know, as I mentioned, Vladimir Putin and Russia is absolutely loving this, and they're saying that we've got the green light to go on. A story, though, that I think will start getting more attention soon, that we should start talking about, though, is Trump's buddy in Hungary, Putin's puppet, Viktor Orban, is getting less and less popular there. If the elections were held tomorrow, Orban would be out by big numbers. The opposition party, led by someone who they call Hungary's Zelensky, is polling almost double what Orban is polling at this point. And many expect that Orban will lose the election, which is in about a year or so. But, who knows the shenanigans they're going to try to pull Orban and Putin before then. But we'll keep following that every step of the way. So I wanted to give you that comprehensive update of where we're at today. I wanted to give a shout out to those protesters in Washington, D.C., and the protesters across the country who are representing the No Kings movement and who are fighting for our democracy. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, and let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thanks, everybody.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.